After returning from an 11-day, 6-game West Coast road trip, head coach James Borrego joins Matt Rucinski and Chris Kroger to discuss the trip and take a quick look at the week ahead. This is the Hornets.com Coaches Show.
Welcome to the Hornets.com Coaches Show. I'm Matt Rucinski, being joined now by Chris Kroger. Chris, it's been, what, almost 2 weeks?
Almost 2 weeks.
I haven't seen Chris Kroger in 2 weeks. I need my Chris Kroger fix.
It's good to see you.
I don't want to talk Hornets yet. I want to talk Chris and just how was this road trip for you? Your longest road trip as a broadcaster?
Yeah, this is my rookie year in the NBA, so it's my welcome to the NBA moment, right? For some players, it happens on the court where maybe they get put on like a poster dunk or something like that, or they have a terrible missed shot. For me, it's here's an 11-day, 6-game road trip. But I have to say, it actually went by quick. I thought it maybe would drag on. It went by pretty quick. At the same time, you look back and you think, man, it's been 2 weeks since we've been in this building almost. So it's good to be back home. It spanned my birthday when we were out on the road, and yeah, it was good. It was a good trip. We got to go out west and kind of flush out the longest road trip of the year. And on the whole, I think the way it ended for the Hornets, I think it ended on a high note, and I think it was an overall pretty successful trip.
Well, happy belated birthday.
Thank
to
you.
Hopefully, I
was just baiting birthday gifts. That's all I want. So
we've got a surprise. Once we get off the air, there's going to be all kinds of gifts being just given to showered on for Chris. But for this road trip, you mentioned the way it ended was great. What was your overall takeaway? Because Coach said before he left, he wanted this team to be better than when the road trip started. Yeah,
you know, I always use this line. I think, you know, progress and growth in the NBA is not linear. You know, you always want it to go from like point A to point B. And I think if you watch the Hornets road trip, much like they meandered across the map, that's how progress, I think, went on this road trip, where right out of the gates, a tough matchup with the #1 seed in Denver, who the Hornets beat here in Spectrum Center. And they battled with them for really 3.5 quarters and just came up short. And there's no shame in that. You come back and play a back-to-back. You beat Phoenix, and Phoenix, I thought, really battled with the Hornets. Then you got to go to LA, same thing. I thought the Hornets played 3 quarters out of 4 that were just great toe-to-toe, came up short against the top 4 seed in the West. So you start to look at it and you think, man, this is what teams in the Western Conference deal with night in and night out. You go to Portland, the Hornets really laid a bit of an egg in that game, and everybody to a man will tell you that. And then how do you respond, right? You come back against Sacramento, play great defense, but the offense wasn't there, come up short again, and you're thinking you're staring 1-5 in the face on the 6-game roadie, but instead you go into the hottest building in the NBA against the Spurs. They were 14-5 in the last 19, best record in the NBA over that stretch. And the Hornets beat them basically wire to wire. Got down 11-3 early, went on a 27-5 run, or 25-7 run, and they come back and really hold the lead the rest of the way. The Spurs got a lead late in the third. Miles gets a putback dunk, regains it for the Hornets, and held on the rest of the way. So I think when you look at the totality of what the trip was, who they played, the types of opponents, all on the road, I think you'd have to say it was a success for the Hornets, and they're still in the 8th spot in the East right now.
And that's the thing. When you look at it, you say 2-4 on a 6-day trip, and that's successful to us. You got to look at the quality of opponent. These were Western Conference teams that were all playing really good basketball at this point. And you mentioned when we left, we were in the 8th spot, a game and a half above the team in 9th. When we come back now, we're still in the 8th spot, a game ahead of the team in 9th. To me, that's successful.
I agree, and I know not all these teams are technically playoff teams in the West, but Sacramento is fighting tooth and nail to end the longest playoff drought in the NBA, much like Minnesota did last year. They're right on the cusp of the cut line in the West. Clippers are a playoff team. Denver's the #1 seed in the West. San Antonio is a playoff team, and they're trying to climb into being a top 4 seed in the West. So, and Portland, same thing. They are a playoff team. So when you think about it, the Hornets played 5 playoff caliber teams in the toughest conference in our league, all on the road. And think about this, not 1 but 2 back-to-backs, and twice you played 3 games in 4 days to open the trip and to close the trip. So there was a weird break in between where we had 3 days essentially between games. But other than that, you bookended your trip with 3 games in 4 days, all on the road against playoff caliber teams. So not easy, and I think the Hornets acquitted themselves pretty nicely.
Kemba Walker did what Kemba Walker does.
Yeah.
We saw him again continuing to put up all-star performances as much as humanly possible. But what were your other takeaways from the trip, especially when you had guys, we left with an injured group, got Jeremy Lamb back, but what were your takeaways?
I'd say, and this guy, we could talk about him every week, and I think he's always so far down the totem pole just because he doesn't draw the attention, he doesn't always make the flashy play, but he is by far the most consistent player on both ends of the court for the Hornets. Marvin Williams is still still just getting it done. And I don't know where this team would be without Marvin Williams. He does it on both ends of the court. He defends multiple positions. He's defending a lot of centers now in the NBA. With Cody's injury, we like to go small at times. He's shooting the heck out of the basketball right now, over 43%. Since he started the first 10 games of the year, shooting around 22% from three, he's shooting over 43% in the 32 games since then for the Hornets that he's played. So he's been lights out shooting the ball, catch and shoot. He's lethal from beyond the arc. And I think Marvin's been a revelation for this team. I think what you saw from Malik Monk and Miles Bridges as young players, you're seeing growth. And it's not always been easy. I think Miles is trying to push through that rookie wall. He did it in big fashion against San Antonio. And I know Malik maybe didn't have the best scoring game against San Antonio, but on the whole on this road trip, I thought Malik was one of the bright spots, because I think you're seeing a different Malik Monk than you saw even a month ago or 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago. And I think that could pay big dividends for the Hornets in the second half of the year. And of course, Jeremy Lamb returning and being that scoring mate for Kemba is just so important. Kemba had 33, Jeremy had 19 last night. And if you're getting that kind of production for your backcourt running mates, I'd be scared for the rest of the East moving forward.
All right, well, that's been Chris's breakdown of the West Coast trip. We're about to get Coach James Borrego's breakdown when we come back on the Hornets.com Coaches Show.
Hey, Hugo, before we do this job swap, can you show me how this half-court shot thing goes? I'm not the most experienced with basketball. Yeah? Okay, great. Okay. All right, so I bend my knees. Oh, arms up. Oh, I'm glad I didn't ask you to show me how to dunk. How do I get down?
Welcome back to the Hornets.com Coaches Show. We're being joined now by head coach James Borrego. Coach, it's been a while since I've had a chance to see you. You've seen this guy for quite
too much,
time.
Too many.
But 11 days.
times.
When you guys left for the road trip, what you said was you wanted to come back from this road trip a better basketball team. Record was not important. You just wanted to be a better basketball team. Do you feel at this point in time we're a better team?
I do. I think we got better on the road. I think we, went through some ups, some downs, but I think we grew as a unit. Spent time off the floor together, tried to connect, bond. It was an important trip for us, and that was the goal. We had a few bumps in the road, but I think overall we come out of this thing a better team. And I think we saw that last night was an example of that. I'd say out of the 6 games, 5 of those games we were competitive in. I think we played well. Obviously we had one stinker in Portland, but bounced back, played well in SAC. Had a chance to win in that game. And then last night in San Antonio, I think we finished off the trip the right way, playing better, more focused, especially on the defensive end. I think that's where we got to focus our energy and group right now, is getting better defensively every single night and having consistency there. If we do that, we're going to have a shot to win every night. If you can go win in San Antonio in that environment and against that team, you can do it anywhere, and especially at home. But it doesn't matter where you go. If you come and you defend, you can win every single night. So I do think at the end of the day we got better.
And you talk about defensively, you hold the Spurs to 29 or less in all 4 quarters. I think 24 or less in 3 quarters. I think you go back outside of the first quarter in Sacramento, that's 7 consecutive quarters where your team, I think, defensively has been locked into their coverages. And especially last night, a tough cover in LaMarcus Aldridge. And I think maybe the best defensive strategy and game plan and execution you guys have had against a superstar player all year. I know he got his last night, but I thought the way you guys kind of corralled him and tried to force him into some uncomfortable shots, I thought spoke to maybe how good your game plan was last night.
Yeah, I think the guys executed the plan, extremely well. We've talked about being a physical team defensively, a disruptive team, and a disciplined team defensively. I think we saw all 3 phases last night. Guys were locked in, they were disciplined from the start. LaMarcus is a heck of a player. He's going to get his points, his shots. I thought Biz did a great job one-on-one. We didn't have to rotate as much and give up threes. We limited the three-point line for them. Took away as many of those 3 balls as possible. So I think they were locked in, but we were a physical group last night. You felt us out there. We've had some other games like that against some very good teams, but we got to have that every single night. It doesn't matter who you're playing against. We got to be consistent in our physicality, our discipline, and our disruption, and I think we had that last night.
Last game of a long road trip, there can be some fall off as a team's looking to get back home. How important was that win last night to really propel these guys?
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, I've been with on a lot of these road trips, and every team goes through one of these or two of these throughout the season. That last one's the hardest. Everybody's thinking about getting home. They're tired, they're fatigued, they're mentally and physically fatigued, they're tired of being around each other. And you just want to get home. And our guys just, they really had a spirit of togetherness last night, focus last night. Obviously having Tony, back in that building was a major part of this. I think there was a real focus to get this done for him as a unit. But Tony was focused on getting that win, and I think our guys bought into that. It was a real special night. So I think overall, just having, the Tony factor there last night was a piece of the win. I'm happy for him, but more happy for the guys. And I know Tony was really happy for the guys. He wanted that win as bad as anybody, but I think when he reflected, he was in that locker room, a lot of those guys had never won in that building. So the focus was there, though. I was really proud of the group, how they responded to that last game of the road trip.
And you challenged your guys before the game. You asked some of those guys, when was the last time you won here? When was the last time you won in this building? And you said, let's go get this one tonight. And you guys did that. And I thought, just in general, it's one game, but I think this is the beauty of our league, right? We can look back on that night, and Tony's tribute, your homecoming return as well, first win in that building since 2006 for the Hornets. So we can look back on that and isolate it for what it is. I think we might all look back 10, 15, 20 years ago, or from now, and for you as a coach, Tony as a player, as he's retired, you'll say, man, that was a pretty special night for the Hornets in that building.
Yeah, I think we'll remember this night and how it unfolded, and just the memories. And there's a lot of memories in that building and that city, and with those fans. So I'm excited for Tony, and I was really happy for him. But just to see people that helped me grow and to get to this point, that helped people that helped grow me and develop me to get to this point. It's great to be around those people again. It's another thing to compete against them, though. That's a little different. That was different, standing there with Pop looking down the sideline, and you reflect for a minute. I had a few moments of reflection as I'm standing there coaching against him, but just a special place. I'll never forget that. So wonderful night.
Coach, when you guys headed out on this road trip, you guys were dealing with some injuries. Cody's still out, but you got
still out.
I know, but
you guys didn't get him ready while we were happened.
We tried what we could back here in Charlotte, trust me. But you had the return of Jeremy Lamb, and Jeremy, for him to step in as seamlessly as he did, a hamstring can be a tough injury. Mm-hmm. Were you surprised how quickly he bounced back and how quick he's actually been game ready? Yeah,
hamstrings, you never know. Those are tricky. I mean, those are tricky. There's a lot of teams dealing with them right now. So he's been resilient all year. He's bounced back. Thankfully, it was not a major one. It could have been worse. Lost him for, a couple games, but it was nice to get him back. And I think he had a couple games where he was trying to get his rhythm back. But last night, he was in full stride. Made some big buckets there in the fourth quarter again. When we needed a bucket, it was Tony, it was Jay Lamb getting us some big buckets there in the fourth quarter. We need that. Can't be all Kemba driven. The focus is going to be there every single night against Kemba, so we need other guys to step up and make plays, make shots. I think Biz, and your point to Cody being out, that was a big game by Biz, on both ends of the floor. If we could get that production or something close to that really helps us. And then you add, I thought Billy played well last night. The combination of Biz and Billy last night was big for us. So we'll get Cody back when we get him back, but until then, those two guys got to hold down the fort. Continue to get better. And I think that was part of we talked about getting better on this road trip. Those two guys have to be better, and they were better last night.
Miles, I thought, had one of the best games he's had in maybe over a month. Yeah. And you made it a point out of a timeout. You drew up a play for him, and he got downhill, went to the rack, had a great finish high off the glass with his right hand, and it just seemed to jumpstart his confidence. He's never stopped working hard, but he's a rookie in this league, and now he's played more games already this season than he played last year or any of his two college seasons. So what did you do for Miles last night to kind of get his confidence going, and what does that mean maybe moving forward to try to push through that maybe rookie wall that you tend to hit sometimes?
Yeah, and, he's trying to find his way, and I think he did hit a little wall, but, it's my job as the coach to jumpstart him, and I think I had neglected him, and those are things as a coach you got to, reflect on and think about, and how you can help your players and your team. And that's one area we have to help. And he's a big part of what we're trying to do. And so I have to find ways to incorporate him in the offense. In the flow, it's a challenge. He's learning, he's growing, he's trying to figure out his space in this offense. When I can manufacture some offense for him and give him some touches, I need to do that as his head coach. So, yeah, the guys feed off of him. His big putback dunk was a big play for us.
Mm-hmm.
We were dry there for a minute. I think that was the end of the third quarter. Big putback dunk. He needs to do that more for us. Offensive boards, defensive boards, defend, rebound. But when he can attack, we want him to attack the rim like we saw last night. So I think we saw Monk and Miles have games throughout this stretch here. That is a big part of us moving forward and trying to get better as a team.
You mentioned Malik. Over the course of the road trip, this might have been his best stretch of games. What did you see from him over the course of this 11 days?
Well, he feels more mature and under control on the court. That's the best way I could put it. He just, I think the game is slowing down for him. He's making the right reads more times than not. The wild plays are becoming less and less. He's looking for a shot at the right time. I think he's confident. He understands, the offense and where we need him to fit in that. So I think he's maturing. I think that's the best way to put it. He's just maturing, and the game is slowing down. This was a big, 6-game stretch. He didn't make shots last night in San Antonio, but he was right there. I love his spirit with the guys. He's in it with them. He's engaged. He knows what we're doing defensively, offensively. He's a bright kid. He's really, really high IQ basketball player. So we need him to continue to develop, and his shot will come. I think he's a confident shooter. So we expect big things out of him.
And you talk about, I think you had said, you remember Tony early in his career, you, I think, referred to him as a wild stallion out there. It's just breakneck speed all the time. I remember Kemba early in his career, same way. You've got one speed, it's 0 to 100. Right. Malik's played that way, but you are starting to see that. And I think that's another reason Tony has such immense value on this roster is he was Malik Monk, he was Kemba Walker, and now he varies his pace, even at his age, as well as anybody in the NBA, and I think it's been a great mentor for those guys.
Yeah, he has. I think Tony's been a great example for Malik, and I think Tony recognized I was that kid, at one time, just one speed to the rim. I was thinking shot, yep. rim, and, I think he has helped Malik slow down, and think the game, and you don't always have to play at that speed, and you can't in this league, So you have to stay poised, change your speed, change your direction, keep these guys off balance. And I think part of it is, Malik got to the free throw line a little bit in the strip, and I think that's him just slowing down a little bit, made some nice reads, nice plays. So I was happy with his road trip.
Last time you were on here, we talked All-Star a little bit. Hopefully the Borrego family has figured out how to vote for Kemba Walker multiple times in one day.
Is today a double day?
Today is not a double day, but we just had the most recent results a couple days ago.
Well, the Borregos are
third overall. Just talk to us a little bit about his trip, and especially that game in Phoenix. For him to score 18 points in 4 minutes in the fourth quarter, as a coach, is that one where you're just kind of dropping the marker and letting him go?
Just get out of his way, make one play call and just let him play. I think we lived in one play call for that whole fourth quarter, and it was just him creating offense and getting downhill, making plays. That's the luxury, I have with a player like Kemba. Just put the ball in his hands, good things typically happen. When teams double him, I think he's making the right play. He did that last night. I kicked it for some wide open shots. So, I think he's growing as well. I think he's a work in progress just like all of us. And but that fourth quarter was special, just delivering that game against Phoenix. And last night as well, he made some big shots, big plays for us. He seizes the moment, and that doesn't surprise me anymore. Anytime we need a big bucket, big play, he's there to deliver. So, and I think other guys are stepping up in that same way. But he's a special guy. He must be on the All-Star team. He has to be, and he will. He's a special player, special talent, having a heck of a year.
Well, the other beautiful part of this road trip is you see a lot of Western Conference teams for the first time, but we're going to see a handful of them here on this little quick homestand we've got. We got Sacramento again for the second time in 3 games, Phoenix on Saturday. So it's not often you see Western Conference teams this close together for you guys as an Eastern Conference team, but I think it allows you to maybe build on that momentum off the road trip, and especially a team like Sacramento, you feel like you owe them and you can try to close it out on your home court.
Yeah, well, you know, the key is to build off the San Antonio win right now. It's not about being satisfied or happy about this win. This could be a very important stretch for us where we build on the momentum we have on a win like this. Could be a very defining stretch for us. But we got to go put the work in. We got to go do it now. We can't just, you know, accept and think it's going to happen just because we won in San Antonio. That doesn't happen in this league. This league, you can be up, be down, win a game, lose a game. We want to build some momentum here. And so, yeah, I think it helps having played Sac so recently. I think that loss is still fresh in our mind. Our guys know it. They're going to be fueled by it. We were right in the mix in that game. We thought we played well. We had a chance to win. Now we get them here on our home court, and I expect our guys to come out and deliver. So, and Phoenix as well. I mean, we just saw them, you know, as well. So 2 teams that, you know, are at the forefront of our mind. And but, you know, obviously Sacramento's the most important right now.
Well, you heard it here, folks. 2 big games this week, starting with Sacramento on Thursday, followed by Phoenix on Saturday. Need to pick up a couple wins. We'll be right back on the Hornets.com Coaches Show.
Go Hornets!
Welcome back to the Hornets.com Coaches Show. We were just joined by Coach Borrego, and he said towards the end of the interview that this is an important week for the Charlotte Hornets. Coming off that 11-day road trip, this is one of the most important weeks. Why do you look at that?
Well, you got 3 remaining home games in the month of January, so we knew once the calendar turned to 2019, January, February, March, April, it was going to be more road heavy for the Hornets, and so they're going through that right now. Just ended the 6-game road trip. Still got 5 more games on the road, including a 4-game trip, which is going to come up starting with a back-to-back. We're at home Saturday, then we go to Indianapolis on Sunday. So big stretch. I thought Tony nailed it after the game the other night, where in San Antonio he was asked in the locker room about what the game meant, and he said, look, they wanted this for me. My locker room, my teammates, they wanted to win this game for me, and they came out and they played that way. And he said, why don't we play this way on the road all the time? And he said, I'm going to start holding them to that. And so that's why Tony Parker's here, and I think that's the challenge now is, okay, guys, that's the way to play. And again, I'd go back over 7 of the last 8 quarters. You talk about Sacramento and San Antonio. The Hornets found a way to play. Now, the offense wasn't there on the road in Sacramento. It's why they came up short. But if you play that way consistently in the NBA, you're going to win a lot of games on the road. And so I love this stat for the Hornets. They're now 16-3 on the year when they hold a team to 110 or less. And one of those losses was Sacramento on the road. They're a perfect 8-0 on the year when they limit a team to 100 or less, which is what they did against San Antonio. So I know this team is more offensive focused, but Coach has been preaching, guys, if you bring consistent defense, we're going to win a lot of games in this league, and I think especially in the Eastern Conference. So the Hornets got to build on that.
You mentioned the Hornets really wanted to win that game for Tony Parker. With Sacramento in town on Thursday, the Hornets really want to win this game to show they could have beat that Kings team just a few days ago. Yeah,
because it all came down, I think, to the final 3 to 4 minutes. The Hornets couldn't get enough stops against Sacramento, and you got to give credit to them. I think Sacramento hit some big shots, and the Hornets just didn't. You know, you talk about the NBA, it's a make-or-miss league. So I think the Hornets being back at home, I think it's going to fuel them to try to even that season series. On the whole, they've had a lot of success with Sacramento over the years, but this is not the same Sacramento team. Loaded with talent, they're young, they played a fast break pace, and I thought maybe the biggest takeaway from what happened in San Antonio, the Hornets didn't turn the basketball over. Had 20 turnovers against San Antonio. You cannot turn the ball over against that team the way they start their break. So I think the Hornets got to get back to also valuing the ball, being smart with the basketball. They're second on the year still in turnovers per game, 6th in assist to turnover ratio, but they got to really hone back in on that side of things, because if you're going to turn the basketball over, I think there's a fine margin for error with with this team.
Hornets are also going to see another familiar opponent they saw on the West Coast when Phoenix comes to town on Saturday. Last time against Phoenix, Kemba with the 18 points in 4 minutes
no big
in the
deal.
fourth quarter. All we got to do is replicate that one, right?
Yeah, well, he is the leading scorer in the NBA in fourth quarter scoring, fourth quarter threes made as well. So that's why he should be a starter in the All-Star game. That's why you got to vote for him, okay? Vote at NBA.com/vote. You can vote via the NBA app, Google. You can do all that stuff, okay? Once per day per device. Yep. So make sure we're flooding the inbox for Kemba. But yeah, I mean, it's remarkable what he does in crunch time. He really carried the Hornets in that game. And don't sleep on Phoenix. You know, I really thought the Hornets played well against Phoenix, and they just made shots. And I thought they went toe-to-toe with the Hornets. And Devin Booker never really played in the second half. He left with some back spasms, never returned. And yet you saw guys like T.J. Warren really step up and play great. Josh Jackson, their rookie draft pick from last year, he's now a sophomore. I thought he played one of his best seasons, best games in his young NBA career. And DeAndre Ayton is a load. You know, in college at Arizona, he really spaced the floor, stepped out, and he can shoot the three. He's taken less than 5 threes in his NBA career thus far. He gets near the rim. He's polished. He's got good footwork. He's skilled, and he's a big load down there too. So the Hornets did a pretty good job on him the first meeting, but just like Biz did with LaMarcus Aldridge the other night, Hornets going to be locked into their coverages against DeAndre Ayton.
Also an important game on Saturday because we were just talking about our All-Star Kemba Walker. Let's talk about a former Charlotte
Glenn
All-Star.
Rice.
It's going to be Glenn Rice night. I know he's one of your favorites. I know he means a lot to you as a Michigan guy. I mean, I love Glenn, let's be honest. So what is it going to mean to you to see Glenn Rice here for his night on Saturday?
I think it's going to be great. You know, we talk about it all the time. I just think Glenn is one of the forgotten might not be the right word, but I think he's one of the lesser regarded pillars of our franchise. And that's what he is. He's a pillar of our franchise. The winningest seasons, that 3-year span, the winningest 3-year span in Hornets basketball happened with Glenn Rice, Del Curry, Anthony Mason, David Wesley, Vlade Divac. Those teams were so good, and they did it with high-powered offense, much like we see now. And Glenn, until now, because Kemba's going to get there, we're just trying to make him a starter, Glenn was the only 3-time All-Star in NBA history here in Charlotte. So there have been a lot of other multiple All-Stars here, never 3-time All-Stars except for Glenn. Kemba's probably going to get there, I think, in the next couple of weeks. But he's a special player. He's an All-Star Game MVP, holds a scoring record for points scored in a quarter that still stands in an NBA All-Star Game back when they actually used to play defense in the NBA All-Star Game, so it makes it that much tougher. So it's going to be great. I think our fans really, some of them, the younger fans, probably don't realize, man, that Glenn Rice guy was just a elite scorer. You know, you look at some of the guys who are just pure professional scorers in the NBA, Glenn Rice made a living off of that, and he was lethal from anywhere on the court, and he was a lot of fun to watch.
Well, the Hornets are back home. Chris Kroger's a year older, and we're ready to pick
and Wiser. You forgot Wiser.
Wiser as well. And we'll be getting his gifts just as soon as we sign on.
Make sure they're Jordans, please.
But there are great opportunities for you fans to get out here this week. 2 great games this week. Come out and see us against Sacramento on Thursday. On Saturday, it's the Phoenix Suns at a 5 p.m.
5 p.m.
Don't forget, 5 p.m. tip for Glenn Rice night. For Chris Kroger, for head coach James Borrego, I'm Matt Raczynski for Hornets.com.